Hello and welcome to the Freshworks Customer Happiness Webinar Series. I am Alan Berkson. I am the Director of Community Outreach for Freshworks, and I will be your host today. This is a forum for best practices and thought leadership in customer experience. We bring you experts, peers, and practitioners in the customer experience, customer service, and customer support space to discuss the challenges and opportunities that new IT is presenting. This webinar will discuss how two businesses, Warby Parker and Copart, have aligned their IT structure with their culture by focusing on three main components of their businesses: data, people, and processes. You'll see how they and their IT teams use service desk data to boost efficiency across their organization, and how to build more agile, proactive, and responsive team while keeping customer happiness at the core. Just some quick housekeeping. There's a Q&A button. If you click on the Q&A button, you can ask a question at any time. We will attempt to answer them as many as we can at the end. If we don't get to your question on air, you can be sure we will get to answer it. I will answer what is normally the most popular question up front. Yes, a copy of this webinar will be available for replay. You'll get an email about that, so stay tuned. Freshworks is refreshing business software that your teams will love. In June of this year, we rebranded as Freshworks to better represent the family of business software we now offer in the market. All of our products are ready to go, easy to use, and offer great value to businesses of any size. Today, we'll be talking about Freshdesk, which is our cloud-based customer service and support tool. Customer support is everybody's business. With Freshdesk, your teams can work together to resolve customer issues faster. As you'll see, it can be used for internal as well as external customers, and we'll also be talking about Freshservice. Freshservice is our IT service desk software. You can modernize IT and other business functions with a refreshingly easy to use, simple to configure IT service desk solution in the cloud. So getting to our panelists, we have two very accomplished and innovative practitioners today. Our first panelist is Daniel McClure. He is the internal technology and support lead with Warby Parker. Warby Parker is an innovator in the eyewear space. Daniel's two main focuses are toil reduction among his team, and I'll let him explain that, and customer happiness throughout the organization, which includes 53 retail locations, 2 HQs, and a lab. Daniel, can you say hello and give us a brief overview of Warby Parker and what you do for them?
Yeah, hey, I'm Daniel McClure, the Office Support Supervisor at Warby Parker. I manage our technology services team, which is 2 corporate and 2 retail support engineers. They are tasked with fielding all incoming technology-related tickets while simultaneously working on projects that will drive down the number of incoming tickets, empower our users to resolve their own requests, and improve the overall experience with technology. So right now we have about 400 corporate users, 800 retail users, and about 50 at our optical lab just north of New York City. We manage close to 2,000 endpoints if you count, our display board computers, all of our AV, and anything like conference room related, etc. So on. My role focuses a lot on identifying common trends with incoming ticket requests, working cross-functionally with my technical project manager to improve work streams, and ensuring that my team is able to balance toil-related work with project work. Just a quick explanation of what toil is. Google put out an O'Reilly book called about site reliability engineers, and came up with a term called toil, which is basically all of your daily non-project related tasks. So in the quote-unquote IT realm, that really relates to help desk tickets, user account provisioning, computer provisioning, anything that just is part of your general baseline role. And we also have some baseline KPIs that we look to on a monthly basis.
So just to clarify, so your customers are all internal. These are the Warby Parker employees that you're managing their technology for them. Is that?
Yeah, correct. So anytime I refer to customers, I'm referring to internal Warby Parker users, because those are my customers.
Great. Well, thank you, Daniel. Our second panelist is Rick Davis. He is the IT Service Desk Manager for Copart. Copart is a provider of online vehicle auction and remarketing services globally. I'll let Rick explain more about what they do so you get a sense of the challenges he faces on a daily basis. Rick, please say hello and give us a brief overview of Copart and what you do for them.
Hello and good day, everyone. My name is Rick Davis. I am the Copart Services Ops Manager. I manage the service desk, which is a team of 13 individuals, and I also manage the NOC, which is our network on call monitoring team. They monitor all our servers, all of our auction dashboard panels. They monitor new installs for when DevOps roll out new applications and software. They will continue to manage and update software as need. They have several different monitoring tools. Also, we work cross-functional with the team for the NOC, DevOps team, desktop team support, engineering, and also we work with the business. Copart has over 5,000 employees. We are globally now. We have office in the UK, which is our, I guess it would be our second mothership. Our first global office is our home office here in Dallas. We also have an office in India. We also have an office in Brazil. So those are our main locations of core support there. Our team for the service desk, we are supporting the internal customers, which when I say a customer for us, is kind of the same thing as Daniel. We have internal customers that we support, and they're our employees. They call from a vast range of password resets, anywhere from I need new software, new hardware, and we work with them we promote the self-service tool to kind of get them engaged on using our self-service portal because of the fact that we try to reduce the calls, which will inspire them to use their tools that we offer them more so than actually calling into the service desk. That's a little bit about overview about what I do. Copart has several different entities. On auctions wise, we auction anywhere from total restore damages. If there's a hailstorm, flood storm, anything of that nature, companies may call us and ask us to come in and retrieve the vehicles and get them cleaned up and cleaned out. And then the insurance company determines what conditions there will be, if they're going to be salvaged, sold, or auctioned off. We also have a company called Crash Toys, which handles anywhere from Ferraris, boats, jet skis, all the toys, the good toys, motorcycles and things of nature there.
You could send one of the Ferraris my way.
Be glad to, man, no problem.
Now, Rick, you're using Freshservice, right?
We are using Freshservice globally. We have a portal now for Brazil, just opened up recently. We also have a portal for US, and it's shared with the UK team, and they work tickets there. It's a good collaboration tool for us because of the fact that we can see, we have visibility to those tickets. When they make updates, they let us know. We have different rules and guidelines that we put in place for priority tickets, which kind of give us everyone an actual global view of what's going on with that ticket. So
that's great. Well, thanks, Rick. And just Daniel, just so people understand, you know, the Freshdesk and Freshservice have some overlap, but you're using Freshdesk, right?
That is correct.
Right. So, and just so as you're listening, the Freshservice, you heard Rick talk about self-service, and there's things that you can do with Freshservice from that perspective, and maybe he can elaborate on why he does that, and we'll talk about that a little more. So thank you both for the introduction. Let's start talking about your philosophy towards customer service and support. And I guess, Daniel, we'll start with you. What does customer happiness mean to you and your organization?
Yeah, I mean, customer happiness is really, focused around, being that our customers are our internal users in corporate, retail, and production environment. How I gauge happiness really comes in the form of technology moving out of the way of productivity, right? So we should never make technology more difficult to use. That's not really what technology is there for. Technology exists to add value and convenience to our lives and increase productivity at work, whether you're in an office environment, a retail environment, you're working from a coffee shop down the street or the other side of the world. And these things are really important because we spend a majority of our waking hours during the week at work. And chances are, if you're at work, you're interfacing with some form of technology throughout the day. So if our technology is causing frustration or stress, we can carry that around with us, not only in a work environment, but also in our personal lives. So, less stress at work equates to like a better work-life balance. Really, my approach comes from, it being 2017, and we're in this really amazing realm and amazing time for technology. We should be empowering our users to resolve their own issues with, self-service initiatives, whether it's hardware, software, or just truly rich, documentation. And I really believe it's the job of quote unquote IT to work on limiting the number of issues. Instead of being a reactive team, we really want to push the bar forward and being, proactive strategic business partners across our organization. I really truly feel like long gone are the days of hostile or big brother IT, and with the amount of data that we're collecting that show us where our issues are trending, we work on solutions to completely remove common issues, or at least that's really our goal, So just as kind of a short example, one of the numbers we've started recently focusing on is the ticket per employee. So if we can remove issues causing 20 to 30 tickets a month, then we can bend that number of tickets per employee in a downward trend. And if we do that, we can direct our focus away from ticket and toil work and toward higher level projects that will assist in, user lifecycle management, self-service, or, the ever popular beyond corp culture.
Right. Now, the technology moving out of the way of productivity. I love that. and that aligns with Warby Parker's overall customer-focused goals, right? And philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Rick, same question. What's your philosophy towards customer services board, and what does customer happiness mean to you and your organization?
So, customer philosophy for me is with customer happiness and success. We here at Copart believe in building a relationship with the customer. First of all, when we have an internal employee calls in reference to an issue that they're having, we treat them the same as we would do an external customer, due to the fact that they're business partners as well, and they help make the business function. Copart believes in Copart believes in innovations, IT innovations, and one thing about it is that the success from how we resolve that customer's issue is how that customer continues to strive to make their job go on day by day. So if we lack to respond to a customer's ticket or issue and it goes open for days and just goes into a black hole, that's the number one thing we do not want to have. You hear a lot of companies say, I open a ticket and no one is responding in 6 weeks, and it's like their ticket goes into a black hole. So our goal is when we get a customer response, we let that customer know that we've received their inquiry, first of all, automatically. And then second of all, we do a follow-up with that customer. And when we resolve that customer's issue, we send out a survey, ask them how we did. We're constantly trying to improve our business by taking response and feedback from our internal employees, which is also helping us respond to our external employees. So my team has mostly internal support. And if we have a customer walking away with great success, they always share that feedback that they felt from the end of that call or the end of that email or the problem that they had. They always share that feedback and that success. I called the help desk and I got this resolved within a matter of moments, and it didn't take me forever. They follow back up with me. It was a great experience. I don't mind calling the help desk because they're always willing to help. So we never want to turn anyone away. We never want to say we can't do it. I've always worked with my team. I build that strategy with my team to say, this is something we're not familiar with. Let me follow up and get back with you. And they have a follow-up time. We allow them time to follow back up with their customers on an outstanding issue. The IT world here at Copart, we're constantly changing and moving stuff in day to day to help our customers, our external customers. When they go into a website, they're bidding for vehicles and they want to hear different things. So our marketing team has put together this big survey to our customers, to all of our biggest customers, and saying, What do you like? What do you like to see? What do you like to hear? And we take those in consideration. And we start offering those things. So if you go out to Copart.com now and you see a vehicle that you want to bid on, there's a little timer that comes up. There's a ticker, and then there's different voices you can select. There's different sounds you can select. So customers want to hear that. They want to hear, just like being in a live auctions, they want to hear that live auction sound. So those things empower, when we are able to support our internal customers, those things empower our internal customers to be able to help support our external customers by rolling those things out. That's what we believe in for customer success.
Rick, you said something that really stands out. I love the fact that you think about managing expectations, that you don't want a big gap, and that you don't want the fact that you didn't respond to impact the end user experience. I know I managed tech people for a long time, and one of the hardest things was trying to get them to understand that there was a business on the other side of whatever that technical problem was. How do you help inculcate that philosophy to your team?
So what we do here is we have, I don't know if everyone's familiar with Agile, but we use Agile, and we have a weekly Scrum. We don't do daily Scrums because of our call volumes, but we have a weekly Scrum. And in our Scrum, we talk about our roadblocks. We talk about our challenges. We talk about customers that have been previous issues that we've had problems with. And then we need to understand, what is your roadblock here? Is it because you don't have access, or is it because we need additional training? And if that's the case, we reach out to those teams and we get that additional training, or we get that access that's needed. We also talk about the expectations of what the customer is experiencing. And I've done role plays with some of the teams at times, say, okay, I want you to call this individual and see what your response is, see how you feel when you finish that call. And then they come in during our scrums and they share the experience from talking with one of their peers on the phone. They also listen to their calls sometimes. I give them a call each week to listen to, and they'll challenge each other on their call to see who had the best call, to see who graded the call the best, and see what they said wrong and see what they said correct. So we keep a lot of competition on my team. I have young millennials, and they love competition, and that's one thing about working with these guys. They keep me young, man. They keep me young.
Hey, Rick, just for perspective, how can you share just this, maybe the size of the team so people understand what you're dealing with?
The size of just my service desk team is 13 agents. I have 2 night agents, which are 20. We run 24/7. So I have 2 night agents, which help support India, Brazil, in the UK. And then I also have my day agents, which is, I think, 12 agents, which have intershifts that start anywhere from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we also have the NOC. And these guys kind of collaborate together. We have different meetings at different times, so sometimes I'll switch it up. I won't put everyone in the same meeting all the time. So I may pull someone from the NOC to be in with the service desk. And then when we do have our scrums, sometimes at least once a month, I try to bring in someone from a different team or different department to talk about what they're rolling out, their new goals, their new software innovations that they're going to be releasing. So I think last week I had someone from our IT security team come in, and they talked about, for 15 minutes, they talked about the overview of what we're doing to help prevent security breaches and security gaps. And they're constantly sending out spam as a test, and they want to know, well, why are you guys sending this out? It causes more calls for us. Well, this helps identify security gaps, because if we have an employee that clicks on every single thing every time they get an email, that could be a security gap and a breach for us.
Wow. You're breaking down silos in your organization. I don't know if that's a good thing, Rick. Hey, Daniel, I know you're a much leaner team, and that actually impacts how your philosophy and how you deliver the support. Maybe can you add something in terms of just your team size and how you focus on that?
Yeah, I mean, we are looking to grow our team by one more. Right now, there are 4 engineers on my team, and I've been with Warby Parker for about 3 years now, and my focus has always been, even when I was a support engineer, I sort of collect all of the data that we possibly could to see the types of issues that were coming in and how often these issues were coming in, and putting out better documentation or better solutions, or talking to other companies to see how they sort of handle these issues. When I started with the company, I think Warby Parker was maybe 400 people total. and we're now well over 1,000. Bordering on somewhere around 1,400, I believe, and we've been able to stay lean because excuse me, that mentality has always really carried us through, is making sure that we are addressing these much larger overarching issues that do, initially they don't take a lot of time to resolve. You can resolve a locked AD account in, 2 or 3 minutes. But if we provide users with the ability to do that in much less time, that's 2 to 3 minutes, 10 to 20 times a week that we're saving. So that's sort of how we've always been able to stay fairly lean. And I don't really want to break away from that. There's not really a part of me that wants to hire a lot of like level 1 help desk engineers, mostly because I think it's very pigeonholing, and I want the people on my team to have the ability to grow their career forward in a reasonable time frame. Also, I think Rick mentioned millennials, quote unquote, and technically I am I am part of that millennial group, depending on what article you look at. And I think the interesting thing is that we're always looking to be challenged, and we're always looking to push things forward, and we never want to be sort of bored with our career path. And I think that staying lean and staying focused really provides an exciting work environment.
Yeah, Daniel, I'd like to chime in on that because that's one thing that challenges me. That's my biggest challenge is, I'm not going to say I'm an old gentleman. I would say as a mature individual, working with the younger individuals, they always challenge me because I have to challenge them. So they challenge me to keep the challenge going. So it's like, okay, what can I think of today to bribe them? What can I think of today to offer them? What can I think of today to inspire them? So it's kind of a twofold for me. I kind of get some inspiration because I get to challenge them, and then they're challenging me in return. You don't really notice it, but when you sit down and look at it and analyze it, the big picture, you'd be like, wow, I'm really being challenged here. So they do not like to be bored. They do not like to sit around. A slow pace environment is not one that my team likes because Copart here is a fast paced environment. And this is one of the things that keep them going because it's so fast paced. Everything is constantly changing. So those guys, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, just real quick, I actually started off very young working in kitchens as like a dishwasher, sous chef, etc. And one of our mottos, or one of the like industry slogans, was if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. And I never want to provide them time to lean. And that's not to say I don't want to provide them downtime. It's just there has to always be something exciting coming up.
Rick, we got a question which I thought maybe was worthwhile to answer quickly. You mentioned Scrum. Could you just explain in just maybe 1 or 2 sentences what it means for your team, just so people understand that?
So Scrum is kind of, I'll break it down to Scrum is a way of, we break down projects, upcoming projects that we use. And we kind of list out what's coming out through the pipeline and give the guys a strategy and plan. And then they kind of go through and list out their dailies, issues that they've seen or items that they need to work on, or if they need time to respond back to some research time, things of nature there. We use Scrum as a form of our team meeting. So it's kind of like when you have a weekly team meeting, we use Scrum for our team meetings. That's what we use Scrum for. Now, if you break it down into leadership and management, we have different types of Scrums. We have meta Scrums, which is a whole lot bigger and broader scope. But for just my team,
yeah, that's all I want. Yeah, just so people get a sense of it, and I'm sure that if they we can maybe address that after the webinar with some of the people who have those questions.
No problem.
All right, so let's get down to data. One of the most important questions I always ask when we're starting projects is how do you measure your success? And I know that you guys both have that data drives a lot of what you do. So maybe Daniel, you could talk about how do you measure your success and what do you look at on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, this has always been a big question in my team, and a fairly difficult one to answer. For a very long time, my team was really solely riding on SLA, or service level agreement. and the number of incoming tickets. So we wanted to make sure that we were hitting that first response SLA, resolve ticket SLA, and looking at like how the numbers of incoming tickets were trending in like an upward or downward. And it's pretty much always been upward, of course. But we recently found that, just because we're meeting our SLA and, resolving issues, doesn't mean that our customers are happy with us, So after pulling a lot of this data out of Freshdesk, we were able to see that we were experiencing just a really unbalanced number of account issues. So we recently started focusing very heavily on, user automation and lifecycle management. And after we started, kind of digging down into this cavernous deep hole of all of these different options, we found that the number of tickets per employee, coupled with the number of tickets of a particular type, is a really good indication of whether or not we're being successful. We're currently kind of looking into other metrics as well, and we're kind of playing with the ideas of like number of interactions per ticket, if a ticket has been reopened, and then, most importantly, but one that we have to handle with the most amount of kid gloves is going to be, NPS.
Right. NPS is Net Promoter Score for those who don't know, and maybe we can talk about that a little later. So how about you, Rick?
So for data integrity, what we do is we'll use the data we retrieve from Freshservice, and we capture our top drivers. For instance, we look at by location what yard is calling the most for issues, and then we reach out to operations. So we give you a particular example. We have a yard 98, which is in San Francisco. Matter of fact, sorry guys, but we use that yard as a typical example, as they call in quite a bit. And so we look at what they're calling about. One of the biggest challenges that we have is password resets, and I think that's anybody's location's passwords. So what we wanted to do was identify who's calling the most and who's not using the self-service password reset tool. So we take that yard, we do that data integrity, and that yard has this individual from this location at 98 has called 7 different times within a month period for a password reset. At that point, we get that over to operations, and operations will reach out to the general manager and the regional manager, and then they'll meet with those individuals and say, okay, you guys are calling the help desk for this, for simple stuff that we can resolve. Why is it continually having to be a problem? So we use that data as a source to help us trend down our calls. We also use that data to help provide other departments what we're seeing in the field. So especially when we roll out a new product, we just recently rolled out the mobile apps product for a different part of the software, and we wanted to see how many users were actually truly using it and how many people were calling about it. So I created a new category and a subcategory, and we started tracking it, and we gave those guys different information to see what they were getting each month. Then we even broke it down from there to see, was it a trend up, was it a trend down? So I kind of gave them a graph, a historical graph of from 30 days to 90 days, here's where you were, here's where you are now. And on top of that, we look at the surveys to provide whether this is a working tool for them, was it a good tool for them, are they happy with it, or they're not happy with it, and then they get the chance to share that feedback. That's one of the ways we use a lot of the data. So data is very important for us. That's one of the things that we look at every day is data.
Hey,
I want to jump. I just want to jump in real quick and say, something that we sort of found earlier on this year was that even though there are times where the data is like pointing all in the correct direction, it can sometimes be not so indicative as to how happy your customers are. And I just kind of wanted to bring up like a situation that we were in earlier this year, if I have time.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So basically close to a year ago, when my team was managed by my predecessor, we had this great idea of shifting everybody over to this different operating system, especially heavily focused in like our retail realm. And so we kind of ran this pilot. It was very successful. We checked all the boxes. We had kind of like this open discussion, open forum for putting all these solutions in in place for any outstanding issues that may have come along that we didn't think of. So once we were able to put a big checkbox next to this, we officially started moving forward with this platform. So all of our new retail stores were opening with this platform, and we were starting to schedule like a retrofit for all of our for already existing retail stores. And we just kind of figured that, you know, their needs were met, everything was happy, we weren't seeing many incoming tickets here. So when I assumed my current role as the kind of the head of tech services, we found out that one of the big conversations among our retail team was this really poor experience with the new platform. So my first project of the year was really just to gather as much information as I could regarding like the biggest outstanding issues. We partnered with vendors. We worked with key internal stakeholders to set like really aggressive timelines to resolve all of these outstanding issues. And we were not seeing any incoming tickets regarding these. It was just kind of this overall, I don't want to say malice, but just discomfort with this platform. And we found that even after resolving these outstanding issues, that people still were not happy with this product, and they were very unproductive at work. So, you know, after a few months of really heavily investing and trying to get these work streams flowing in a positive manner, we had to hit the brakes and shift the gears completely. And we ended up replacing this new platform with what we had originally gone with, and found that immediately when we started reverting back, we started seeing hugely positive feedback. And this was not like in the vein of incoming tickets. It was, you know, we were receiving letters to our support team, and we were receiving a lot of feedback from, you know, department heads and regional leaders. And this is just kind of one of those experiences where even though the data was saying, yeah, everything is fine, we had to really dig down and ask the question if we were doing things right. And I think one of the big wins here is that if we can make our retail team happy, then that happiness is then passed on to our in-store customers, our external customers. And you're creating this like very positive experience because the retail user is not carrying around this stress of having to help someone with a product that they're, you know, really unsure on. And that's then passed on to the customer, and it creates like a really healthy environment in the retail store.
Dan, what was the input? Because it's hard to say if there's a problem when there's lack of data, right? That's almost like you said, there's that silence. It doesn't necessarily mean everything is good. It just means that you're just not hearing anything. What made you think to go out to the teams to really figure that out, or whether just anecdotal stories?
There were some anecdotal stories, but I think what we had learned is that our users, our internal customers, had just gotten so frustrated with trying to report these issues that they just stopped, and they figured they would just kind of deal with it and kind of piecemeal in these solutions. So, you know, one of my first initiatives when I came into this position was to have conversations to see sort of where we could improve work streams. And this was one of those things that they were like, oh, we just wanted to let you know that this has become like even more of an issue than it was before. So I think just based on kind of my outlook of making sure that, you know, people are utilizing technology and technology is working for the user, I wanted to make sure that the solution we had put in place almost a year prior was still kind of up to snuff. And it turned out that it wasn't, and our users were just generally frustrated without communicating to us.
So while it's important to look at the data, it's still critical to make sure you communicate directly with your end users. Rick, you made me think of something with, so you see the data shows you that password resets is a big thing. So you created a service to allow people to do that themselves. And I'm sure that everyone listening who's in the IT business can identify with, you know, it's not, you know, if you build it, they will come is not really something that works for necessarily for IT. How do you get that message through? How do you help with adoption for that kind of thing?
So one of the things that we look at is that when you build a new tool, when you identify what the problem is, and you build that tool, a lot of people are not open to change. So what you have to do is promote it. So we promote it during our town hall meetings. We promote it during our monthly KPI meetings with the managers, directors. We have marketing to send out new material. And then also the next thing, not the second thing, but the next thing that we do is the agents. What they tell the customers when they call to get their password reset, they'll add a little message. They customize their own little things, but they say, hey, did you know you can go to selfservice.copart.com and change your password? Let me send you the link while I have you on the phone. Don't
Right.
put that in the ticket. And so the next time that customer remembers, oh, you know what? I don't have to do this. So sometimes the customer, they don't want to do it. So they don't use it. They just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to use it. So we have to adopt that and embrace that customer constantly. And once we identify that that's one of the repeat users, I have one person that has a agent that calls them at least every 90 days. They have it on their calendar to follow up with them to say, hey, it's time to change your password. So I don't know why she does that. I think she just cradles the customer. I said, you're going to cradle them from cradle to grave, but she's built that relationship. Yeah, she's built that relationship with that employee. And every 90 days, she sends that employee an email, hey, just FYI, it's about time for you to change your password. Even though we've also put into the systems that there's a little message that pops up 15 days. Hey, FYI, we recommend you change your password. Another 7 days, FYI, we recommend you change your password. And we know we all get busy and sometimes we just exit and keep on moving. And then when you get locked out, what do you have to do? You got to call in and reset your password. So those are some of the things that we worked on promoting those things with the field. Same thing with new tools that we offer from a servicing standpoint. We work to promote it on our website, to the internal website. Some companies call it intranet, but on our intranet, we work to promote it there. When the marketing team sends out, weekly or daily news flashes, we coordinate with them to send out something from us saying, hey, did you know you can do this? Or, hey, did you know you can do this yourself? And here's how you do it. We also use Freshservice we have an article out there on how you do things. So here's, a link that you go into our
A solution
catalog,
article.
our catalog. So
Yeah.
we have a catalog that you can go into the self-service catalog, and then you can tab on solution articles and type in what you're looking for, and we have it customized for internal employees. We have it customized for IT employees. We also have it customized for some GMs at the yard so they can go out and see what GMs see. GMs may not want to know what IT does. So we have different levels of hierarchies of how you get to that solutions based on what are you looking for.
No, that's great. I got a question from the audience that I think is great to answer because it's probably on everybody's mind. The question was, how do you encourage clients to answer surveys? And I know that you're probably shaking your heads right now saying, yeah, it's hard, both of you. You want to just quickly jump in on that because I think that, and I know there's no great answer, but
yeah.
But you do what you can. So how do you feel that?
Dan, you want to take that one and I follow up, or I can take it?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely give it a shot here. So I mentioned previously that we are looking into doing some kind of NPS. So we are not currently pushing out surveys. I'm a firm believer that our users can be fatigued in certain realms, right? So in order for us to secure our services, we use multi-factor authentication. There is such a thing as multi-factor authentication fatigue, where users become resilient to these solutions because it just takes so much time. So right now, I think the option in Freshdesk to send out like a how did we do kind of a thing is after every ticket is resolved, a customer will get a survey like, how did we do? But I want to limit that. I want to find a way to say, maybe every 10 tickets or every 15 tickets a survey is sent out, because I don't want one thing I don't want to do is just blast my users with more and more and more emails, right? Like I was on vacation for 2 weeks. I have 1,000 emails unread in my inbox. I don't want it to be 1,001. I really want to take their experience into consideration when it comes to this. I mean, if you want to kind of pivot off of that, and I can come back.
Yeah, so from our standpoint, we're kind of the same way. We don't want to blast everyone with a survey every single call, every single time a ticket is taken or raised. But what we do is we use Fresh Services survey tool. We were using, I think, Survey Monkey at one time, and they just noticed that it was too many blasts. It was just too much. Customers just get to it and they look at it, just move it on and delete it. So what we started doing was we started using Fresh Services survey tool, and we have. When our employees, my services team, so in their weekly roll up or in their monthly review, we give them, I'll go through and I'll say, okay, here's how many calls you took, here's how many tickets you closed, here's how many surveys you received. And so we have a KPI based around surveys. One of the things that the agents will do sometimes is they'll say, hey, after this call, you may get a survey. And they don't tell them you will. They say, you may get a survey. If you don't mind, let us know how we're doing and what we can improve on. And some customers fill it out, some customers don't. We have, as I stated before, some users that constantly call for password reset every single 90 days, and they don't want that survey. So we're also looking at ways to reduce those surveys. If you're constantly calling every week for something simple, do you really need a survey? Is it worth having a survey form? But then we also leverage that with, if the agents get or if anyone gets a bad rating, we look at that survey and say, what can we do to improve that customer's experience? If that customer didn't like how long it took to resolve something, we use that to look at, what do we need to do to improve the SLA on resolving an issue for this particular cause? So it's kind of a twofold challenging situation for us as well. But we've kind of put some SLAs around it. I'm sorry, not SLAs, but we've kind of put some KPIs around it, and it kind of helps us manage our surveys a little bit better.
Yeah,
Now,
I think
go
that's
ahead,
a
Daniel.
really interesting point right there. Is why did you get a less than satisfactory rating? And I think that that's the bit that we would like to try to solve before we start pushing these surveys out. Because if it's too many interactions per ticket or too much time has gone by between interactions, we definitely don't want the numbers fudged. I mean, as nice as it is to think that everybody's going to be happy all the time, there's still going to be times where you cannot make somebody incredibly happy.
That is true. And then, there's times when you have an employee who may not want to even do a survey. So we can't really target them. Sometimes if we have customers that call repeatedly, what we'll do is when time allows, what we may do sometimes is we look at by user base who's always calling a lot when we do our monthly KPIs. And sometimes we may have someone from the service desk just reach out to them and say, hey, we've noticed you call service desk quite a bit. Is there something that we can do to help you? Is there something that you would like for us to start offering as a tool for you? So, you can't make everyone happy with surveys. You can't make everyone complete the surveys, but it's an opportunity for you to kind of leverage that.
I'm going to throw in a question here that again came from our audience related to this, which was, do you survey the people who don't contact you? And I think you implied that, Daniel, in terms of reaching out, and that was with your, with your OS issue, because either everything is perfect or they're just having a terrible experience and they're just not telling you about it.
This is a difficult one, and might be part of a much larger conversation. I think that's culturally related, right? And when people hear culture, they're like, oh my gosh, how do I change the culture? Like, this is probably one of the most difficult things you can do. So without kind of getting too much into that, there needs to be a medium somewhere that any user in your organization, any customer in your organization can submit feedback. So I do like to use Reddit as somewhat of an example. And so I'm just assuming that people here are very familiar with Reddit. And it's basically just a forum of ideas and articles that people submit, and you can upvote them and downvote them and comment on them. And what we want to do internally is sort of use Freshdesk forums to actually have all of kind of this ingress of ideas and this ingress of feedback, so that we can go through and see, like, where are some of the spots that we should start to focus on that are being requested by our users, and have the ability to upvote these and comment on these and get more information, and then, put them into our team's roadmap and start to weigh them against, other initiatives that we have. So I don't think there's one specific, one easy example for, gathering that feedback. And I'm not sure if that really answers that. Should we contact people who don't contact us? But that's sort of
I think part of it is giving people multiple ways to communicate, making it easy for them to communicate you. So if it's not a ticket, it's a forum or it's a conversation in some other way. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Rick, what this also makes me think about is we had a conversation before the webinar where you talked about, from a data point of view, looking at your top 5 call drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that process?
So part of our KPIs is to look at our call drivers and see what's trending for us, what's causing so many calls. And if we start seeing call spikes, we need to be able to identify what's causing this call spike. So what I do is every week I have a which I'm working on automating now to reduce some of this manual process. But every week I report a KPI of how well the service desk did for as average speed of answer, call handle time, and all those things. And I think that's done across the board with everyone. But what I do is I also take it a step further and I break down the top 5 call drivers. And okay, we received the increase of calls. Here's how many increased calls from normal compared to last week. And then here's what they called about. So when I look at those top 5 call drivers, I take that as an initiative to see, out of this previous month versus the previous month before that, are they still calling and why are they still calling? Then that's my opportunity to go reach out to the team that handles these issues and say, hey, what is it that we can do to help reduce calls for this? What is it that we can do to trend down these call volumes? So we have a legacy tool called CAS, which is a part of AS400. That's been a CAS password reset has been Copart's biggest password tool for years. And it's just customary that everyone calls in, I need to reset my CAS password. Well, so what we started doing is we started reaching out to the team, and an innovation idea came out that said, hey, why don't we offer self-service password reset for CAS tool? Well, because it's such a beast to work on and to add things to it, you can only throw so much at AS400 these days now. So we worked with the IBM team to put a project together, and it took us about 1.5 years, and we're now almost at the end of rollout. But we've used that data to leverage a tool to be able to put into CAS or AS400 to help the users do their own password reset. If you identify those top calls over the last year, and if you identify a cost per call, that is a way that you can determine, okay, I'm spending $8 per call for a CAS password reset, and I'm getting 300 of them every week. There's something I got to be able to do with this.
Now, yeah, Rick, let me just, if I can push a little further, you talked about the fact that they say garbage in, garbage out, and you talked about how you don't like miscellaneous or other as a category. Can you just talk about that philosophy, because that's pretty much a strong part of how you deliver your database?
Yeah, so with garbage in and garbage out, Alan, when we first migrated to Freshservice, we looked at what we were getting from our previous outsourcing vendor. And you have users where the first thing they do is password reset other, password reset other. You can't identify anything. So what we had to do is we had to take together a group of us, and myself and me and one of the managers, we looked at what was going to help him be able to report off of, what was going to help me be able to report off of. And then we just started breaking out our categories. And most of it was either break fix, password reset, or it could have been hardware, software, new device, replacing device. Kind of break those categories out and eliminate that other. Because if you have that other in there, man, I'm going to tell you, the first thing you're going to do is when you run your data, everything is going to be password reset other, or you can have a category, hardware.
Can confirm. Can confirm. Yeah.
So we just got rid of the other, and we have we may get calls sometimes that we can't really identify, and I have it broke out for a call that we can't identify. And with those things, when you can't identify those calls, what we have to do is we say, here's what the call was about. we try to list out the category, and then we turn around and we just use a separate category for unknown device, unknown software, and then we break it out using the description in detail. And then if we start getting a lot of those, I go back into Freshservice and I create another category or subcategory based on what the team is telling me, or based on what that manager, when that ticket is assigned to that group, he may come to me and say, "Hey man, I'm getting a lot of unknowns for this tool. Can you add this in?" And I'll just add it in.
Yeah, Dan, you want to add something to that because you had some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to a lot of what I've been talking about with pulling out this data. And we quickly found out that other/miscellaneous was the top ticket that was being submitted. So, we recently rebuilt our entire Freshdesk type with like subcategories under it so that we could remove the other/miscellaneous. And, it is not perfect. We still get requests to add in certain things that we may have forgotten. But I would totally agree, once you remove that other miscellaneous, you then get much more clear data. Yeah.
All right, I got one more question for you guys, and then we have quite a few from the audience. So this one. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you go into that question, I want to say something also with Freshdesk and Freshservice. The way it's so easy for us to add, I really appreciate that, because if we identify that there's a new solutions coming out or a new product coming out, we can just go in there and add that new category and subcategory without having to go through a whole change panel, without having to go to the vendor and say, "Hey, I need you to add in this category." So those things, being able to add those on the fly as you identify new products or new software, it's really helpful to have.
So you don't have to hire expensive consultants to customize your software for you? Exactly. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, yeah, pretty much. It's kind of a do-it-yourself thing, It's like you identified it and you can go fix it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I just as a wrap up for and I think it relates to some of the questions that we have, and you both had some interesting answers to this when we talked about this before. What do you look for in your service agents, in what in terms of skills and stuff like that? Maybe Daniel, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I'm really I don't really adhere to the thought of hiring an army of level 1 help desk zombies. I'm looking for technicians and engineers who genuinely care about the end user's experience. There's always an easy or lazy way to approach every technical issue, right? So if the error light on your panel starts blinking red, you can kind of approach that in the sense of just disconnecting the error light. You've gotten the error light to stop blinking, so there must not be an error. What I look for is somebody who wants to know where that error is coming from. Doing the deep dive into forums and manuals and this, that, and the other to get to the root of that problem, and kind of immersing themselves into that issue for a very long time. The two are not mutually exclusive. You can always find sort of an easy/right solution, but chances are that if it is the right solution, then there will be kind of like this backlog of work that has to go into it. Also looking for people who are always kind of keeping their eyes and ears open. I definitely don't want to take on more work than we need to, but at the same time, if we overhear a comment that this is going bad or this is going wrong, I want to know what's going on and how we can fix that. I'll try to keep this as quick as possible, but something that I heard when I first started with the company was sitting with my customer experience team who handles all of our incoming calls from customers, and while they were talking to a customer they actually said, "I'm sorry, this is taking a minute, my system is slow." And all of a sudden I was like vaulted back into every single phone conversation I'd had with like a customer experience agent where they're like, "Oh, sorry, this is taking time because my system is slow." And I was like, I never want to be head of IT for a company where their customer experience agents have to say, "I'm sorry, my system is slow." So, without taking up too much time, we did have to go through and ask ourselves, why is the system slow and what can we do? Is it a hardware thing? Is it a software thing? Is it an operating system thing? How can we make that better? And that's kind of what I expect out of my engineers as well.
And that's a case of, the agent experience, it directly affects and reflects the customer experience. That's great. Rick, what do you look for in your service agents? Did we lose you, or are you still on mute? Looks like we lost Rick, so you get to answer all the questions now, Dan. We have a couple of questions from the audience. One of them is, how do you reconcile the need to automate with the need to provide a personal touch in your customer employee service interactions?
Yeah, I think automation is kind of one of those buzzwords, but I think it's also infinitely important when it comes to running lean IT. I would say that, while still providing that personal touch of, an on-hands collaboration tool where we introduce users to use their systems, or when we launch a retail store, we have a trainer on site who's assisting people with setting up their accounts and how to use their computers. But also at the same time, I would say that, that personal touch can be affected very negatively if the person's name is not spelled correctly, right? So we focus a lot on automation, pulling from our HR system to provision user accounts in Active Directory, so that their names are spelled correctly, their accounts are set up properly, and they have the proper permissions the first time that they log in. And then you have all of this free time where you can make a personal impact in a much different manner, instead of that first experience they have with the trainer or the engineer being troubleshooting their account.
Right. We got another question. Are you using reports in Freshdesk to monitor and track all this, or some other tool to get your information?
We rely heavily on the Freshdesk reports. So my TPM actually runs Freshdesk reports multiple times a week, and we send out a midweek report on tickets, an end-of-week report on tickets, and then at the end of every month, we measure our KPIs against the Freshdesk reports that we pull.
Oh, that's great. One more question from the audience, and we touched on this a little bit, but maybe you can expand on it, because I think it really relates to how how Warby Parker thinks about their service delivery. How do you encourage your users / clients to use self-service options?
So yeah, I would love to be a part of another conversation about company culture and how you shift that company culture. I think the best way to kind of dive into this head on is, I don't want to say don't offer any other options, but really providing a very easy way to achieve a goal, like something that you can demonstrate will actually save them time. So, for instance, if one of my corporate users needs a new keyboard, well, it's not worth the cost for one of my support engineers to look at that ticket, respond to the ticket, and then deliver a new keyboard to that user. I set out a stack of keyboards, and every user knows where they exist, so they can go grab a keyboard when they need a keyboard. We also have links to documentation in tickets, and we'll link to that documentation that will resolve their issue and then close the case. So I think it's very cultural driven. We talk a lot about self-service in all of our introduction. We have documentation that is provided to users when they first come on, and we almost rely on those users to be our advocates or evangelists for that self-service, because they can help each other. When you're supporting 50 stores, you really do rely on the end user to assist other end users with issues that they may have.
I think we got Rick back, and I want to see if you can answer one of the questions we had from the audience. They asked, are you using reports in Freshservice to monitor and track all this stuff or some other tool? And I think that's a good question for them.
When you ask, am I using reports to track all other, or?
No, this, because we talked about the things that you're monitoring in terms of your KPIs and categories.
Yes. So we use reports from Freshservice. So we have a process where we use change management in Freshservice. We built a tool there for change management that we work with. So we track all of our change processes there, how many changes we do a week, how many changes we do a day. We also track in our KPI reportings, we track our call trends, our volumes. So most of our tracking, well, I would say about 90% of our tracking is done through Freshservice.
That's great. That's great. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. You guys, I could listen to you talk and ask more questions for probably another hour. And I think we already have 2 more webinars that came out of this. So, Rick, Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us today. I will say that, again, a replay of this webinar will be available afterwards. If you want to get more information, you can check us out. Freshworks is our corporate brand, and we've been talking about Freshdesk and Freshservice as our customer engagement tools. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again on another Freshworks Customer Happiness webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.